Hi, I'm Richard from Early Retirement Wanderlust. It is the first Thursday of the month, which means it is Wellbeing Thursday. And in today's video, I want to introduce the concept of finitude. None of us are going to live forever, and I want to try and explore how we use that information to make sure that we can have the most fulfilled life we possibly can. So it might seem a bit of a strange concept to introduce for a wellbeing video, the idea of finitude, or the fact that we're all going to die, but there is absolutely no avoiding it. And I think we can use that information in a really powerful way to enhance our life. So in this video, what I want to do is to unpick the concept of finitude, to try and establish where it came from, and then more importantly, to try and give you some examples of how I've used my understanding of finitude to improve my life and help me live a more fulfilled life in my early retirement. The first time I came across the concept of finitude was when I was reading about the Stoics, and they have a Latin phrase that is Memento Mori, which means remember death. And the whole concept of that was that we should be looking to live a more enriched and fulfilled life because of the idea that death is going to come to us, and there is no avoiding that. So what we actually do in life is really important in this moment in time, because we are never going to get this moment again. And I then got a little bit more understanding of it from Oliver Burkeman's book 4,000 Weeks, which is a much more modern text. There's no Latin in it, thankfully, and the whole premise of the book is based upon our average lifespan of 80 years, which actually, when it's pared down, is only 4,000 weeks. And Burkeman takes a much more pragmatic and contemporary view of finitude, but the idea that we only have 4,000 weeks on this planet if we're lucky, and it's really important to consider how we spend that time and how we prioritize that time to get the most out of our life and to live the most fulfilled life. Then on a purely personal point of view, I think as you get a little bit older, death becomes more apparent in your life, and that's not morbid, it's just reality. So, in 2021, I lost my dad really quickly to cancer, and then shortly after I lost my younger brother, and that was probably the first time that death had really sort of touched me, and the concept of death had touched me in my adult life, and it caused me to just think about how I was living my life. It caused me to early retire and try and get a better quality of life for me and for Jackie, but it was probably the first time that I'd seriously considered the finitude of my life. And then recently I came across a website that actually takes the whole concept of finitude and puts it into a physical model. I will put a link or a QR code so that you can check this out yourself, but I found it really interesting. In essence, what it does, it takes Berkman's concept of 4,000 weeks and breaks it down into a physical model that you can adapt towards your own life. You pop in your birth date, you put where you were born and your gender, and then it comes up with a model that you can adapt for your 4,000 weeks, and you can have a look at how long you spent in education and the different phases of education. More alarmingly, you can look at how many weeks you have devoted to your working life. It shows you exactly where you're at this current moment in time in terms of the weeks that you've had and the weeks that potentially you've got in the future. And for me, it was really important because it differentiated between the amount of time we devote to work and then, in this case, the relatively short number of weeks we devote to retirement. And by making that decision to retire early, all we've done is extended that block so that we've got more time in our retirement years and we actually devoted less time to our work years. But I find it a really interesting model. It's not for everyone. It is a bit geeky, it's very me, but if you want to have a look at that, it might help your understanding. I know it certainly helped my understanding because I could physically mess with the model, and I find stuff like that quite interesting, but that's just me. I found that this concept really helped me to understand the principle of time, and it really did help me focus on the importance of the present moment rather than focusing on what's gone on previously in my life or what's coming up in the future. The only thing we actually have in life is this moment in time. So probably the biggest message I got from that was to not put off things that you actually want to do, because we don't know how much time we've got left, and we're going to use that as a positive understanding. And actually, if we want to do something that is going to bring us joy and fulfillment, then we actually need to get on and do that. Jackie and I have talked a lot on this channel about the importance of prioritizing experiences over material stuff, and the whole idea of finitude, in the fact that our life is going to end at some point and we can't take all of that stuff with us. So there is a real importance for making sure that we build up experiences and memories from our life, because that is what makes up life. In one of my previous videos where I reviewed the book Die with Zero, Bill Perkins talks about the importance of memory dividends. So for example, when we took our kids on holiday as children, the memory dividends that we have from that is still paying us back now. So it wasn't just the fun and the excitement of the holiday in that moment in time. We all think back to those days and have really, really happy memories of those days. So that event that we invested in is actually paying us back even now. And one of the things I've recently come to understand, having read 4,000 Weeks, is that we only have 4,000 weeks. And I'm a bit of a control freak and I like to get everything done. And what Berkman explains is that we simply have not got enough time in our 4,000 weeks to get everything done on our to-do list. So we have to be quite selective and we have to be quite brutal and simply say some things are not that important to focus on. And for me, having that almost permission to say, well, yeah, this isn't important, I'm not going to do it, has been a real revelation. This understanding of finitude has really helped in the fact that it makes me more present, because I know that all I have in life is this particular moment, and this particular moment will not come again. So I've got to get the very best out of each present moment, rather than perhaps what I did in the past, which was thinking about the past or thinking too much about the future. And I think it's an old phrase of wishing your life away. One of my dad's favourite sayings was that there's no pockets in shrouds. No matter how much money you make, you can't actually take it with you at the end. We come into this world with nothing and we leave this world with nothing. And I know this concept has given me a better balance between my saving and my spending. I make a conscious decision to spend my money on experiences and not stuff, because I know that I want those memory dividends to pay me back. But what I'm ever mindful of is that it is just encouraging a balance. It's not encouraging me to be foolhardy with my cash and just blow it all because there is no tomorrow, because there is a tomorrow and we don't know how long that tomorrow is, and we've got to be financially responsible and make sure that we have got enough money to last us for our life. But we've also got to make sure that we are not so obsessed with that we just save, save, save. And that mindset shift between saving and spending is probably one of the most challenging things that we've come across in early retirement, because we are conditioned throughout our life to save for the future. One of the most difficult things I've ever had to do in my life was to speak at my dad's funeral and offer a eulogy. It's never easy when you lose a parent, but for me, I took a great deal from that, because I never realised until that time what an absolute legacy my dad had left. So it was not just his work with me. Dad was just an amazing person that offered love to a whole range of different people. He did so much charitable stuff, and seeing the number of people that came to his funeral and the lovely things that they said about him and just the legacy that he left behind was just a real eye-opening experience to me, and it helped me realize what's really important in life. And since then, I have really tried to focus in on the legacy that I leave, the people and the relationships that I have, the amount of time I spend in terms of trying to help others and be kind to others. And although it was such a traumatic experience at the time of losing Dad and, having to go through that whole process, It's actually left me as a better person. And I also think that, that is part of Dad's legacy, that he knew that, he was passing that on to me, and I live my life almost in his shoes now. Understanding that we're not going to live forever has caused me to absolutely prioritize my health, my physical well-being and my mental health, and making sure that every day I look after myself physically. I make sure that I have a good diet. It's not that I'm wanting to live forever, it's just that I want to make sure that my remaining days can be as active and as fulfilling as possible. Likewise, it's also encouraged me, as I've turned 50, to make sure that I have regular medical checkups. I've never been one for going to the doctor. I'm not a massive fan of it. However, it's really, really important to have those regular checkups to make sure that you are doing everything you possibly can to safeguard yourself, to make sure that you can, as I say, have a long and fulfilled life, however long that may be. When my dad had his cancer diagnosis, we knew that he hadn't got long to live. He'd only got a few months, and one of the things that we said to each other was that we would leave nothing unsaid and we would have no regrets. And as sad as that time was, I had the most wonderful time with Dad, and we chatted for hours and hours and hours. And I think that raised the idea of how important it is to make sure that you don't let conflicts or things fester in relationships. Life is too short, so it's best to work hard to resolve conflicts in relationships and make sure that you get the very best out of those relationships. And I just, even today, love that idea of just having no regrets and leaving nothing unsaid, because that was what me and my dad vowed to do. And I feel eternally grateful that we had that time to be able to do that. My dad loved his words of wisdom, and one of his sayings was that every man needs a shed. Now, he did go on to qualify that and said, well, it could be man or woman. And what he did say is that it doesn't necessarily need to be a shed, but we have to have something in our life that fires us up, that we are passionate about. And for him, it was his shed and his allotment, and he used to love spending time there, and it was his space. But likewise, the shed could be a bike, it could be a campervan, it could be a boat, it could be a collection of stamps. It doesn't matter what form that shed takes, but everyone needs something in their life that fires them up. And for us, me and Jackie, it is travel. And we have been very intentional in committing to travel, because that is the thing that lights us up. That is the thing that excites us about life. That is almost like our hobby. And life is too short to put those things off. And if you have a passion, then you just need to go for it. And then the final thing I think this concept of finitude has molded our life is the idea of living a simple life. And it's really helped me understand the priorities of life, and that life is short, and that we should really be focusing on the simple things. So I think it's been well documented on this channel how we believe in less is more. So we have less things, less stuff, which allows us to have more time for experiences and building those memories and building those memory dividends to make sure that we can live as fulfilled life and as simple a life as we possibly can. So to round things off, I want to share with you a lovely quote that I found recently from the Dalai Lama about life. He sacrifices his health in order to make money. He then sacrifices money to recuperate his health. And then he is so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present. The result being that he does not live in the present or the future. He lives as if he's never going to die, and then dies having never really lived. So that's it. I hope you have enjoyed the video. It's been a bit of a strange one to put together because it's not been a book review, it's just been my sort of random musings about a particular concept. But this idea of finitude is something that has changed my whole mindset about life, and I think it's changed it for the better. And I genuinely believe it's helping me live a much more fulfilled life, living in the present and recognizing what's really important in life. And on that deep note, we'll leave it there, and we will see you next time. See you later.